Okay, so I remember where I was when I learned that George Lucas had sold Lucasfilm, Skywalker Sound, Industrial Light and Magic, and ultimately the Star Wars and Indiana Jones franchises to Disney. I was at the American Film Market in 2012, and everyone there was talking about, like, oh my God, this is amazing. Oh my God, this is great. Oh my God, Disney is going to save Star Wars. And there are people there that were disagreeing with that particular assumption. I think at this point, they probably would argue that they were proven correct. And there are a lot of people out there who criticize Star Wars here on YouTube that would sit there and go, no, of course not. Disney did not save Star Wars at all. In fact, Disney ruined Star Wars. And the reason why I bring it up is because there's an article here that came up from Showbiz Cheat Sheet, or just cheatsheet.com, saying why some fans think Disney saved Star Wars. Now, going through the article, it kind of just more or less summarizes it up by saying not only did we get a new series of films, we got Force Awakens, we got Rogue One, we got Last Jedi, we got Solo, there's Rise of Skywalker, and then whatever comes after that in 2022, 2024, and 2026, there are a lot of movies. And between the years 1983 and 1999, we got nothing. There was nothing in regards to Star Wars back then. Nothing in regards to Star Wars back then. You had the introduction of the EU, which started, I believe, in 1991, and there's a lot of great books from that particular front. But the thing is there was nothing. And Disney came along after Lucas had done a trilogy of films, and there was the one cartoon show for the Clone Wars that was on Adult Swim, our Cartoon Network, and then you have the Clone Wars animated show that, while a little bit rocky at first, found its footing towards the end. So much so that fans collectively lost their mind at last year. Was it Celebration, or was it Celebration last year that they announced season? It was like Star Wars. It doesn't even really matter. They announced season 6 of Clone Wars that's coming out. Like, that was a thing. People lost their mind over that because the show had gotten a lot better. So those were all pre-Disney purchased Star Wars properties. Good, bad, some in the middle. However you want to look at the prequel trilogy is entirely up to you. Phantom Menace is still pretty... It has its issues, but I actually have grown more fond of Attack of the Clones, and I outright love Revenge of the Sith. So there's that. Now, Disney. Think about this. What have they done? They've done the movies, as I mentioned. They brought us Star Wars Rebels, 4 seasons of that show, which was great. Really, really played up a lot of what came off of Clone Wars, a lot of the emotional resonance. Some characters came back over and the completed plot lines came over, and it was pretty cool to watch. We also got Star Wars Resistance, which is a show aimed at kids, but truly is worth the time to watch. Yes, it's definitely got some stupid jokes in there, but by the end of season 1, I was like, oh damn, where's it gonna go? This is pretty damn good. Just like Clone Wars. It took a little bit of time to get going, and once it started really ramping up the plot, it just got a lot better. It's unfortunate that TV has to kind of follow those particular guidelines and those rules, but that's generally how things are these days. But not only that, we've also got The Mandalorian, which, if you've seen the leaked footage coming out of at a Celebration, oh my God, that's going to be amazing. Worth the price of admission getting into Disney Plus. They got Cassian Andor, which I think is going to be as good as The Mandalorian. Depends on who they get to run it, but I'm looking forward to that one. There's probably going to be a whole bunch more Star Wars content coming down the pipeline from Disney Plus in regards to everything. And we know that while there's a hiatus for the next trilogy of films, we are going to be getting a lot of television shows, and there's also comic books, and there's also novels that are apparently being pretty well received in the new canon, and there's a lot of other things that are happening. Not to mention Galaxy's Edge. Disney spent over $1 billion per park to put Galaxy's Edge in Disney World and Disneyland. And I get to go in a couple weeks to that, so I'll definitely be letting you guys know how I feel about it when I'm there. But think about it. We get a whole bunch of movies. We get a whole bunch of TV shows. We get a whole bunch of books, a whole bunch of comic books. We get a Star Wars land. I mean, all things considered, wouldn't you agree that Disney put the money in to effectively save Star Wars from maybe potentially another 16 years of nothing? Outside of some books and some Marvel comics, because I don't want to forget the Marvel comics that came out around that time. I mean, quality of The Last Jedi aside, there have been problems in regards to how Lucasfilm has handled the new series of films. And I do believe a lot of that is Kathleen Kennedy. She does not know how to run a franchise. They have now learned that ultimately that is not going to work for them. So they brought in a new woman, Michelle Rejwan, to take over the live action side of things. And I think Filoni is still handling the animated side of things. So now we're in this new kind of unprecedented territory in regards to where it's been since it was purchased in 2012. Kathleen Kennedy is no longer calling the shots. Someone else is. Now, we do have to give this woman time to see whether or not she actually does well. She may or may not. I don't know. But it's definitely something that's a learned thing, right? It was a learned experience that Lucasfilm had to do, and Bob Iger had to probably put in place after The Last Jedi came out and crashed. Well, crashed with some fans, still made a lot of money. Rian Johnson's sequel series, our new trilogy, who knows? That won't save Star Wars. But I do believe that in essence, if you boil it down to brass tacks, if you look at it as a whole, yes, Disney in fact saved Star Wars. Because the question I have for you, and I already know what some of your answers are going to be, but I do want you to think about this a little bit. Would you prefer there to be no Star Wars at all, or what we have with the potential to get better? Because as we learned in the aftermath of Lucas selling, is that Lucas, while a gifted storyteller and a gifted creative, is not necessarily the best writer or director. That was evidenced very heavily in The Phantom Menace and even Attack of the Clones, which even with Carrie Fisher giving him notes and helping him with the dialogue, still didn't do very well. Lucas suffered from a major problem. Too many yes men. Now we're living in an age where if you go on the internet, there are no yes men. Unless your name is Scott Mendelson from Forbes. There are no yes men, period. It's not that at all. It's almost the exact opposite. So it is holding their feet to the fire. And with that, it does feel like they're learning. But these things always take time to get there. Now, I would have loved it if they would have hit the ground running and it would have been great and great and great and great and great. And I think ultimately, had Rian Johnson not absolutely screwed up The Last Jedi in regards to how he just made his own little whatever that movie was, and they followed JJ's original plan, it would have been a much better received property. We wouldn't be where we are. And that does fall on Kathleen Kennedy. But now, post this final trilogy in the Skywalker saga, wrapping everything up is going to no longer be an issue, at least publicly an issue. They might have hired Michelle as a way to simply just, deflect from Kathleen Kennedy, which is possible. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I just play one on TV. We don't know that. But I do argue that, yes, in the vast, vast, vast majority, Disney, in fact, saved Star Wars. They did. They bought it. They've invested into it. They've attempted to cultivate it. There's been some good. There's been some bad. There's been some in between. But Disney is nothing if not always evolving as a company. They're not nothing if not always evolving and trying to find better ways to tell stories. At least I hope that's what happens. Disney as a movie studio is in the gutter, so they need Star Wars to do well. And I would hope that now that they've got this new person who's going to be overseeing everything, that we start to see better stories, that we start to see better attempts at telling these stories as a way to build the franchise back up, because it could happen. Lucas gave us a blueprint for fantastic space opera storytelling. Now it's up to the people at Disney in order to not look at it as simply being just marketing and toys and merchandising, which is what they go to in regards for a lot of the back end money that's not there anymore. They have to now tell better stories. And I'm hoping that that's what they've learned. And so, yes, if you want to know why I'm optimistic about the future of Star Wars, this has a lot to do with it. They've owned the franchise now for nearly 7 years. And as a result, we've gotten 4 movies, a couple TV series, and more on the horizon. More than we ever got with George Lucas. And to be fair, more than we ever would have gotten with George Lucas. As much as I love the guy, by the end, he was done with Star Wars. I don't think his final trilogy would have ever materialized, to be honest with you. I don't think it would have. I do wish he picked somebody better than Kathleen Kennedy to be his successor, because I think if it was someone like Dave Filoni or more of a creative that understood the cultivation and nurturing of the franchise and the nurturing of these characters and these stories, would have handled it in a different way. I wish J.J. Abrams would have not succumbed to Harrison Ford's request to die. And I wish he would have taken it a bit more seriously instead of trying to ease people back in. And I think he realized that after the fact, that him and Kasdan might have gone a little bit too much beat for beat with A New Hope. And that was a bad way of jumping back into it. I think I've heard him say that in an interview. So I'm hoping that The Rise of Skywalker kind of rights the ship, corrects course. Because if you look at the general fan sentiment right now, it's mixed, but it really only has anywhere to go but up in many cases. The people that love Star Wars are going to go see Rise of Skywalker, and they're probably going to love it. The people that are not happy with where Star Wars is right now are probably going to go see Rise of Skywalker and hope to like it. At least I hope they're going to want to like it. And it really only has anywhere to go but up. So if they can capitalize on that, and then they can build upon that, and they can bring in proper storytellers and get rid of the story group, which is something they need to do, or bring in better storytellers. I'm sorry. What do these people write? What do they do in the story group? What do they write at all? Right. And when's the last time you heard of a story group doing anything? Remember when Akiva Goldsmith was going to be, Goldman or whatever his name is, was going to, was running the Transformers writers room at Paramount, where they had like 5 sequel films planned and a whole bunch of other stuff that they were working on. What materialized from that? Oh, right. The Last Knight, and ultimately Bumblebee, which was good, but then nothing else, because Transformers needs to like reboot itself. So writers groups don't necessarily mean much. What it needs is a strong leader to guide it forward, who can then once again save Star Wars. So yes, Disney did save Star Wars, but they've also kind of thrown a little bit of it away because they are trying to look at it from being this massive, massive moneymaker. Now they're at a point where they realize that that's not the case, and they have to tell good stories to go along with everything. It's like I talked about in my franchise fatigue video. If the movie is good, people will come regardless of when it comes out. If the movie is not very good, it will then have some trouble. That's, if there's a lot of drama behind the scenes, that will add to it. If there's shifting of studios, that will add to it. People are fickle with how they spend their money, but if they want to spend their money, they will always justify it. If you want Star Wars to be as successful as Marvel, which I think it ultimately can, and it ultimately should, the key is to establish a long storyline with good writers, good directors, and good actors, trust in the talent, and let them work. And if they can establish that trust and that loyalty with the audience, which is there, it's absolutely there, then 100% it will be back on top in a couple years. The problem with it is, though, or my question I should say, is whether or not they have the ability to actually pull it off. Because yes, Disney did in fact save Star Wars from George Lucas, who was very well content with sitting on it and doing very little. And now they're in a position to save it from themselves. And I'm hoping that they're listening, and I'm hoping that they do. But I leave it to you. Your thoughts, your opinions. How do you feel about all of this? Let me know down in the comments below. I will talk to you guys later. These should be some interesting comments. Have yourself a great day, guys. Thanks for watching. Please thumbs up the video, subscribe, and I'll talk to you later. Have a good day, and peace out.